seeing priests being asked to do countering violent extremism. So again, we can say that it's about all forms of extremism, but then when you look at, well, where is the FBI, where is the CIA, which communities are national security agents in? It's not all of these communities that experience violent extremism.
And so people were always interested in like what we were doing, wanting to find out like what are the Muslims next door kind of like up to and stuff like that.
The surveilling of Arabs and Muslims is not something new. It's been happening way before September 11th, but after the events of September 11th, the US government now is using that to justify surveilling Arabs and Muslims, but it has been around much before. It was just under the radar.
The United States really began focusing on what's known as countering violent extremism as a policy initiative, and then focusing squarely on deploying this initiative within US public schools, where teachers and guidance counselors and social workers would try to identify young people who are supposedly on the pathway to violent extremism. And so it was sort of their job to report to FBI agents or to other national security agents that they think a young person is being radicalized.
I had just gotten my permit from driver's ed, and I was like super excited to go drive, and I was sitting next to my dad driving around just the block like in the neighborhood, going through side streets and stuff, and we went around a few times, and then we were stopped by the police, and we later pieced together that the neighbor that lived a few streets down from us actually called the police and said, "This is suspicious, these people are just driving around," even though they knew us. We've been living here for like 15 years. Like, they know who we are.
So recently, my mother, she wore the hijab about a month ago, and she told me about her different experiences, and how that affected her. Before she wore the hijab, she used to go out shopping, she used to do all these normal things, and she wouldn't get judged, and she wouldn't get looked at, and she wouldn't get examined, apparently by the white people. And then she told me that, after she wore hijab, like, she would go shopping, she would hear these, like, racist remarks about how, about her hijab and about, like, the way she actually shops. And she tells me about, like, the different ways that people actually look at her when she goes shopping for clothes, and she goes, different daily activities throughout her life.
Okay, so do you know if any of the students that this is taking place in their schools are aware of what's happening? And if they are aware, do you think that it's breaking apart trust between students, between teachers? How do you think it's affecting students and their parents?
So in Chicago, people actually don't know how it's happening, and no one really understands right now how it's happening in Chicago. In a place like Minneapolis, it's very clear that you have community organizations, schools that are taking money from the Department of Homeland Security and using it to police and monitor young people, and that's led to the prosecution of a number of people under this idea of material support to foreign terrorist organizations, and that's really fractured the Somali American population within Minneapolis. Minneapolis, because it's sort of pitting people against each other, it's dividing people, people who have accepted countering violent extremism and then people who are rejecting countering violent extremism, people who accept that FBI informants are really important to national security, and other people who say this is really devastating to our community. And so you see those divisions, you see a lot of resistance, and in Chicago you see Muslim organizations that have accepted. I was at the downtown Islamic Center, and it was filled with FBI agents and community members, and everyone was referring, if you have a problem with white supremacy, if you have a problem with violent extremism, here's an FBI agent you can speak with. And people were going and speaking with the FBI agents. And then you go to other organizations and they'll say, no way, I'm never talking to an FBI agent. They've raided our houses, they've arrested our loved ones, so why would we ever communicate with FBI agents? And it's sort of a no-win situation, because if you reject the FBI and countering violent extremism, you then become targets. But then if you accept it, you're allowing the FBI to criminalize your community and to monitor and survey. So it's sort of, people are put in an impossible situation unless there's sort of collective resistance to that kind of surveillance.
In their local cafes or grocery stores, they're afraid to talk to other Arabs and Muslims in fear of saying the wrong thing. Also on college campuses across the country, we see there's a lot of student activists who are even hesitant to be active in fear of being targeted by the US government. And in this sense, it's suppressing their freedom of speech.